So before we get started on the content for today, let's make sure we're all clear about the logistics of the class and how we're going to proceed. This is a pretty large class to accomplish what we want to accomplish. Typically a class this size, you would have exams, right? And that's how your grade would be assessed. I'm just not a big believer in that in this subject matter area. So as I mentioned to you, we're not going to have exams, but you need to realize then, I wish I didn't have to give you a grade at all, but the university doesn't quite see it that way. So your grade then, a lot of it is going to depend upon these posts, your communication with your team around those posts, as well as your attendance and discussions in the class, right? And then doing the assignments that we have. So just want to make sure everybody saw that in the syllabus and you're good to go. Now maybe in your other classes they walk you through the syllabus. I'm not going to do that. I assume you've read it, you're adults, and you understand what's expected of you. Everybody? You read through my commitments? Yeah? You acknowledge that? You submitted that. Everybody's good there. Yes? I like that. Okay. Now, yeah.
Do we have to get the
The turning point. How many of you? I understand. Whoops. How many of you have to have Turning Point for another class? We're going to do Turning Point. All right? And my sincere apology if you're having to duplicate Top Hat and Turning Point. As I mentioned to you, if that puts you in a financial bind to buy the book and Turning Point for this class, let me know and I will lend you a book. And I think I made some comment about charging you for it, but I will not charge you for it. It will be my donation to you. Loan it to you. So I'll have them to loan to other students. All right. Did everybody find the... Yes.
I think it would be better if you reserve the book on the library so we can just go.
It's already up there.
Yeah, it's a great thing, and several editions are up there. I don't know if we have a 5th edition there, Spencer. It's there? Okay, then the 5th edition is also there, and I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll put a couple of more copies in the library so that there will be several in case they're checked out at the same time. Would that be helpful? Okay, that's a great idea. We'll do that. Let's talk about what it means to be an adult. I think that's important. I read a New York Times article, I guess it was last year when I started talking to the intro classes about being an adult, where they surveyed all of these wives in these marriages, and their number one complaint was that their husbands didn't know how to be an adult. Now, gentlemen, don't take that personally, because I've known lots of women in my life that didn't know how to be an adult either. But let's talk about the fundamentals of being an adult and how it applies to this class. First of all, are adults timely? Okay, and are they timely? They're timely for 2 reasons. One, because it's a good habit, right? Number 2, they're timely because that's demonstrating respect to other people. Is that fair? Okay, so if you have a challenge being on time, this is the time to work on that. Right? All right. Especially when you work on teams, right? That's pretty crucial to do the things you say you're going to do. And that's second when it comes to being an adult. Do adults follow through on the things they say they're going to do? All right. Now, how many of you, just curious in my own mind, how many of you don't ever want to be an adult? Let me just raise your hand. Really? I think some of you are not telling the truth. I know kids that get out of there like, really? I don't want to pay bills. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. You guys are a different generation, are you? Maybe that's a millennial thing. You guys aren't millennials, are you? No. And you don't like to be called that, do you? No. Yeah, okay. Hey, I got it. Yeah, I'm just trying to keep in mind what's going on here. All right. What else does it mean to be an adult? You guys tell me. Yes, sir. Tell me about that. You've got to fulfill your commitments. Is that fair? Fair way to describe responsibility? Yeah, we own that. Do adults plan? Adults plan. Okay? I know you've said should a couple of times. I'm not a big fan of that word. I think we should get rid of the word should, especially in the past tense. You should have done this. I should have done that. But I'm not being critical. I'm just sharing with you my own perspective about that. Did you have your hand up, ma'am? Yes, ma'am. Accountability. But here's the most important thing. I agree completely. Can I expand it a little bit to say we hold ourselves accountable, right? We have self-awareness around the things we do. We don't beat ourselves up. How many of you have a little challenge with that? Okay, well, try to let go of that, because that doesn't do you any good at all. Remember this, you did the best you could at the time under the circumstances. If you could have done it differently, you would have done it differently. Don't should yourself, right? Forgive yourself, own it, learn from it, move on down the road, right? But hold yourself accountable. Can you do anything about the past? Nothing. Look forward. All right, and yes, sir. Wait, were you Gunner over there last time? You guys are screwing with me today, aren't you? Everybody moved around. Okay. Yeah, you're doing a good job of that. What do you got, young man?
I was going to say hold yourself accountable.
Oh, all right. Well, all right. That's a good one. Yeah, we hold ourselves accountable. So, is it reasonable then that I expect everybody in the class to hold yourselves accountable to the syllabus, to the schedule, to your teamwork, and to the commitment that you made? Is that fair? Everybody's on board with that. Okay, now, what's really important around this is this. We've got, I think, almost 80 students in this class, and then in leadership we've got another 55, but then in this communications class that they wrote me into teaching, I think we've got close to 100 kids in there. That's a lot, right? Now, this guy in the back works hard to keep everything organized. But that's a lot of people, and it's a lot of grading, particularly the way we teach the classes, with the written assignments and things and posts. So, to help us, help you, there in the syllabus, on the frequently asked questions section, the very first page, it tells you how to get help for the class, right? Can we walk through that real quick? Because this is really important. If you miss class, whose responsibility is it to find out what you missed? Okay, so please don't email me and say, what did I miss? Okay? You've got the syllabus, you've got the schedule, you've got co-students, you've got the podcast that you can listen to. All right? If that doesn't solve your challenge, please reach out to Spencer. If he can't solve it, then reach out to me. Is that fair? Yes. Okay. We want to solve your challenge, but we have to do it kind of in a help process. Because if 300 of you are emailing me, all I have to do, I just have to turn around and email Spencer. Right? So let's do that process that way. If you guys do your part, we'll do our part. Fair? Cool. Now, how many of you missed the first day of class? Okay. Just use that process. Okay. Thank you. Because in this class, we don't just look at the syllabus the first day of class. We actually had some content. We had a pretty significant discussion that kind of created the baseline for the rest of the course. So the podcast is there for that reason. All right, Spencer, if you'll follow through with Andy and make sure those podcast links are up and going quickly. All right. Everybody who wanted to find the book found the book. Need I ask, how many of you found the book? Raise your hand. All right, very cool. If you don't have the book, you need to get the book, because you're going to need the book to have a baseline for the projects that I'm going to ask you to do, even though we don't have a test. And you need the book for the posts, because you need the information in the book to give you the content in order to write the posts. If I get a post that's totally irrelevant to what's in the book, that's not an effective post, and your grade will suffer. Does everybody understand that? Okay, now having said that, adults will read. Right? And I'm not talking about Snapchat or Instagram. I'm talking about reading and understanding and reflecting and thinking. That's what adults do. Right? So my expectation is that you will do that on a regular basis, and you will do your posts timely. You will review your team members' posts timely, so that when we come into class in the morning, you're prepared to offer your thoughts and comments about each other's posts. Everybody? Because that's the process we're going to have. You're going to write your post. Spencer and I think we have this figured out. We're going to find out between now and Tuesday. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, I'll come up with another plan. Well, Spencer and I'll come up with another plan. Spencer and I in the university will come up with another plan. But here's the concept. You all now know, by the way, the posts you wrote for today, last night, I thought were very good. I thought the quality of the posts, the depth of the posts were very, this is the tobacco issue. Everybody? I'm going to tell you the other thing I was impressed with. I was impressed with the quality of the writing. So that's good. Yeah? All right. But here's what I want you to do. Once you post, you realize that once you've posted, then you can see everybody else's post. Did you notice that? All right. So from now on, Spencer has put each of you in a team. A team of 5. There's mostly teams of 5s. There are 2 teams of 6. Right? Your teams are located there on the left-hand side. Did anybody find them? Yes. All right. Make your username for your posts whatever you want it to, your name, but then your team number. Right? Team Stephen Barth, Team 3. Right? That way, when you post, you can look and see your other team's posts and read them before you come into class. Right? So because of that, I'm going to move the time up, because our class is early. I'm going to move the due time up on that. Let's agree on this together, because I know some of you work, some of you have to think. If we set it up by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, does that takes you about a minute to read each one. Does that give you enough time to read 4 other posts? If we say 9 o'clock at night. That way you'd have the rest of the evening or the morning. Does that give you enough time? Yes? No?
You mean like to write it or to read?
Well, you've got to post yours to read everybody else's. So you've got to have yours written and read everybody else's. That's, so you're clear, what we do in the morning, the first 15 minutes of each class, is you get together in your teams, and out of the 5 posts, you design an optimum post, the ideal post. And then you post that in a team post folder so that we can look at that, right? That forces you to assess. That forces you to think differently, right? It's one thing to give your opinion. It's another to assess others' opinions and to work together to create the best result, right? That's what teamwork should be able to do, and that's what I'm trying to get you to understand. So what I'm asking then is, right now, people have until 11:59, midnight basically, the night before an 8:30 class. I think that's a little unfair for some people. Or do you guys all stay up until after midnight in order to be in class by 8:30? Speak to me. Everybody's up? All right, hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. This is good. I'm trying to guess, and I'm not very good at that. What time is a reasonable time for me to expect you to post your post the night before an 8:30 class? 8:29. So just before 9 o'clock. 8:30. Oh, you mean in the morning? Yeah, we're not doing that. Okay, let's keep going. Now keep in mind, you can post these ahead. They're all open for you. You don't have to wait till the day before, right? This is part of the planning concept. You know what needs to be done. Yes, sir?
Is the team post you talked about going to be like in class once we get here?
The team post you create in class once you're here. But in order to be able to be a productive team conversation in 15 minutes, everybody has to see the post. Now, the alternative is what we've done in prior semesters, is everybody prints out a copy and brings it here. You got to print out 5 copies. Then we're wasting trees, and everybody's got to pass them around. Right? Or everybody logs in when they get here, and then they read it there. But that takes time. We just don't have that much time. Right? So I don't think it's unreasonable to expect you to post and review 4 other posts that take about 1 minute, maybe 2 to read by a reasonable time at night so everybody is prepared for the class the next morning. We're only doing this 2 days a week. Don't push back too hard. You're looking at somebody that used to have to read 250 pages a day. Right? Okay, so my empathy level is very high, but not so much in this instance. But I do want to be sensitive. So let's be reasonable. Now that we know that 8:29 in the morning is not going to work, let's talk about what will work. But let's do it quickly because we got to go on. Who says 9 o'clock? 9 p.m. Who agrees on 9 p.m.? Raise your hand. Who wants later than 9 p.m.? Raise your hand. Oh, my goodness. All right, well, wait. Those of you that wanted 9 p.m., do you have time in the morning to review them before you come into the classroom?
Yes. I misunderstood. I'd like to take back my support for 9 p.m.
Okay.
I don't want to be on my own at 9 p.m., so I also take back my support.
Holy cow. 10 p.m. Yes, ma'am. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Say it again.
What if you make it 11:30 and that gives us 4 minutes plus a little extra change to have it done by midnight so we can go to bed the night before?
You got time. I'm thinking 10 o'clock is a reasonable hour. Everybody agrees with 10? All right, 10 p.m. And if that midnight thing is really important to you, just do it the night before midnight, right? Yeah, so you're good. All right, you can do it right after class. You got all kinds of time. Spencer, please change the schedule. They're due 10 p.m. No more 11:59. 10 p.m. Everybody's good with that? And everybody understands what I'm expecting you to do. You're going to post by 10, and then after 10, that way you know all of your team posts that are going to be posted will be there by 10. Everybody good? You read them, you come into class, you're immediately going to sit with your team. You're going to have 15 minutes at the beginning of each class to come up with the ideal post and post it. So you've got to work quickly, so you've got to be prepared, right? Now, if you need some extra time to post, your team post, talk to Spencer about that. Everybody good with that? All right, but the expectation is clear now. We're all good to go. I like it when a plan comes together. All right. Now, so, yes, ma'am. Yes.
So I have a question. So the individual post gonna be the night before class meeting, right? And the
By 10 p.m.
yeah, and the group post gonna be the night
It's going to be in the morning in class.
morning class.
Unless you need a little extra time, then you ask Spencer for a little extra time before he.
Can use our phone or
Yes, during that first 15 minutes, as long as everybody commits to being, if you're on Facebook, if you're shopping on Amazon, deal's off. Right? All right. Everybody good with that? Okay. That'll be a team peer thing. We're going to hold ourselves accountable to the guidelines. Fair enough? All right. It'll be hard. How many of you have a hard time turning your phone off? Raise your hand. It's okay. A few people. Yeah, it's challenging. I get that. All right. We're good? So, we're going to skip our first team meeting this morning because we took some time now to do this. But Tuesday, Do we have another post set for Tuesday's class? Because we're still going to be on chapter 1. Yeah. We're going to talk about it in just a second. All right. But anyway, what I want to do today is I want to jump right into chapter 1 and get some fundamentals down. And we've got 2 days set out for chapter 1. So we've got plenty of time to kind of get orchestrated and get a foundation built for us. But if you were let's start out, though, by kind of simulating what that team discussion might look like, right? So everybody kind of read through the tobacco sales initiative thinking about legislation that's going to ban that. I was impressed with your discussion points and your arguments. Can somebody try to focus us on what the 2 primary criteria were in this post? Many of you identified them in the ethics part. Gunnar?
One was the fact that the business or the lounge sells cigarettes, which is a tobacco product, in the lounge, and they also allow smoking to be in it. So it would affect not only sales, but also potentially, like, if guests would be able to smoke in the lounge.
Which would affect?
Customer base, your regulars, and your flow, and the experience at the lounge.
But wait, how would it affect them?
Their experience. They wouldn't be able to smoke, come in to smoke. They'd have to leave and then come back in.
Okay, what else? I get that, but what else? Their health, right? So I think you're exactly right, Gunnar, and I think the experience is going to be impacted. But and Gunnar's thought is it's going to affect their experience because it's going to inconvenience them because they have to go outside and smoke. Your thought is it's going to impact my experience because I'm going to breathe in smoke, right? So the issue is, which oftentimes are the issues with ethical dilemmas, is money versus health. And that is often the argument in front of juries in trials. This hotel, this restaurant, this event planner put money before their customers' health. They put money before their employees' health. You have to realize, well, let me forget that. If you were on a jury and you heard that a hotel put money before guest security, in other words, they put profit before guest security, how would you feel about that? Depends. On?
If they intentionally were trying to put money before, or it just so happened to be, they put money before, or is it just something they didn't realize? I would need further detail.
Let's say this. Let's say you're in a high traffic corridor with your restaurant, and that other restaurants have experienced many violent crimes in their parking lot. And you can put in, and they've all put in camera systems, and that has pushed the crime away from their lots as a deterrent. But your GM decides that the $2,500 to install the camera system would eat into their quarterly profit and affect their bonus. And then somebody gets assaulted in the parking lot. Now, there's no guarantee that the camera would have prevented it, but can we say it might have, right? Probability, because from experience we know in other places it deters it. Doesn't mean it will. It could be a drive-by, it could be an accident. People could wear masks, right? So it's not a 100% deterrent. But how do you feel when somebody makes a choice like that? Yeah, they don't care. Do businesses have an obligation to consider not only their customers' welfare, but also the general public at large's welfare? When you serve alcohol, do you have an obligation to consider not only your commercial results, your sales, revenue, and profit, but also the safety of your guests, your employees, and the public at large?
Yes, specifically since bartenders have to take a course making sure they recognize the level of alcohol that people have to drink safely.
Okay, that's right. He says that people have to take a course. How many of you are certified in the responsible service of alcohol? But how many of you that are certified, how many of you work at a place that says you have to get certified and then never brings it up again? Raise your hand. Okay, is that putting the public safety first? Or is that putting profit first? Profit. See, they don't want you to focus on that because they want you to focus on sales, right? Because they know sales will be diluted if you really serve responsibly. Do you see? So you have to recognize, and that's the point of this post. You have to think not just about you, not just about your customers, not just about your employees, not just about money. You've got to think about health. You've got to think about impact and consequences on all constituencies. Right? That's what effective people do that make good choices that keep themselves out of trouble. Are you good with that? All right. Let's stay on ethics for a few minutes since that was the post. In the book, we lay out, how many of you took the leadership class last semester? Piper? Yeah. Remind me your name? Christian. Patrick. You sat next to Christian. Yeah. Okay. Piper and Patrick, didn't we walked through the 7 tests of ethics? Did you call that? Okay. Can you remember any of them?
I can try.
Go ahead. Sure. Is it fair?
Okay. Is it ethical?
Well, that's where we're getting.
Okay.
But that's a good thought, because that's where we're trying to get to.
Okay. Can I phone a friend?
You can phone, yeah, I would suggest you phone Piper.
Okay, Piper.
Hey, that's the most important one. How many of you saw the list in the book? Okay, so there's like 7 questions, right? All of them are in there. Why? Why do you need to be familiar with these questions? Here's the first question. If something is legal, does that make it ethical? No. If something is illegal, does that make it unethical? No. Ah! Think before you speak. If something is legal, does that make it ethical? It's legal to serve alcohol. Right? It's legal to serve alcohol. Does that make it ethical to serve somebody all the alcohol they want? Okay, so do moral obligations play a role in your decision making? All right, and that requires empathy, and that requires looking at all constituents. Yes. When I say constituencies, what do I mean? People that could be impacted by the decision, exactly. Employees, guests, vendors. Can vendors be impacted by your choices? Investors, very good. Owners, managers, employees, don't forget the public. So you live in an apartment, and there's a bar that goes in right across the street, and they build a rooftop, and they have rooftop bands, and they play at night until 2 in the morning. Are you okay with that? If you run the bar, are you okay with that? No, you're not. Because who have you forgotten about? You've forgotten about your constituents. You've forgotten about your public. Are adults good neighbors? You best say yes, or I'm going to fail all of you right this second. You have, look, here's a fundamental premise of the law. One person's civil rights ends where another's begins. So, remind me of your name? Joel. Hey, by the way, Spencer, I don't know if we got a note out, but you guys, by Tuesday's class, bring a name tag for me, will you please? Nice size name tag, bright. If I can't read it, I'm going to call on you for sure. All right, nice, bright name tag, and put a little something on it about yourself. If you like to drink wine, put a bottle of wine or a wine glass. If you like music, put some notes or a piano or a violin or whatever it is. If you're into dance, put Tiesto on there. Put something on there. You guys don't know who Tiesto is, do you? He's old. He's old school. You know who he is. So Joel talked to us about self-responsibility, right? So let's learn what that really means right now. Hold on. If you're playing music in your car, is it your responsibility to be sure nobody else can hear it? Well, whose else's responsibility would it be? Why did you have to think about that? It's your responsibility. If you're having a party at your apartment, whose responsibility is to be sure it's not interfering with your guests? It's yours. Do you get to wait until they call up and complain? No! That's not being responsible. That's not holding yourself accountable. That's being a child. That's being a frat boy. Or girl, as the case may be. Do you get that? If you smoke, whose responsibility is it to be sure that smoke doesn't negatively interfere with anybody else? It's yours. And not just the first-hand smoke, not just the smoke that comes off, but the second-hand smoke. When you go smoke a cigarette, you are odoriferous. You know what that means? It means you stink. Look it up. Odoriferous. You remember Pigpen and Charlie Brown? You remember that cloud? Well, that's you. If you vape, same thing. While I'm on this topic, you know this entire campus is totally tobacco and vape free. Everybody get that? All right. Don't let me see you out there doing it. Everybody? And how many of you like the campus better because of that? Raise your hand. Enough said. All right. Now look, if you smoke, I'll defend your right to smoke for as long as you live, which won't be very long. But I will do it. But you've got to realize that's self-responsibility. You want to be in the hotel business and somebody says, hey, I'm going to make you 10 grand a night with this loud music in downtown Houston. Great. But you got to figure out a way where that music doesn't disturb the neighborhood or your other guests in the hotel. Yes. All right. I'm glad we had this conversation. Now we know what self-responsibility means. I think. We'll keep going. So, come back to my original question. If something is illegal, is it ethical? No. Because it's illegal, right? Society has chosen that has decided through your electoral process that type of behavior is not appropriate. So in and of itself, it makes it unethical, right? But the inverse is not necessarily true. Just because something's legal, does that make it ethical? No. And we just gave you several examples. It may be legal for you to play your music, but does that make it ethical when you're disturbing everybody around your block? Hello? No. Would you be okay if it happened to you? No. If you had a baby and you finally got them to sleep, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 How are you going to feel about it? And the baby goes, hey. How are you going to feel about that? Not very good. Right? Empathy drives the ability to help you make better choices as a manager. And legal and ethical choices. Now, before we get into the ethics test again, let's bring this home to you so you understand why this is such an important conversation. Many of you are going to graduate and go to work someplace, and you're going to get a career job that you want to keep. Does the business have the right to establish guidelines that you have to comply with in order to work there and keep that job? Yes, they do. We call those codes of conduct or core values or an employee handbook or ethics statements, right? Just like you signed off on in this class, you will be asked to sign off on those. I have read and understood these, and I agree to comply with these. And if you don't, what is the business entitled to do? Now remember from our conversation on Tuesday, they don't have to have that reason, right? But they're letting you know that that's termination for cause. Now if they terminate you for cause, that helps the business because you can still go get unemployment, but it won't be charged back to their account and experience rating. You'll read more about that in the insurance chapter. Right? Okay. You need, if they tell you you can't post on social media anything about the business, what does that mean to you? You don't do it. You don't post photos. You don't make comments. You never discuss a customer, ever. I always get one student a semester that sends me a note that says, I just got fired from my job for putting something on Facebook. I'm like, yeah, so? They're like, can they do that? Did you not hear anything we talked about in class? Yes, they can do that. So understanding the code of conduct that's expected of you in a place of business is crucial. It's not any different than the code of conduct all of you agree to do when you drive in a location. Do you agree to stop at a red light? Do you agree to use your blinker? By the way, what's a blinker for? Is it for you or is it to communicate with everybody else on the road? Communicate. So use your blinker. That's being respectful and responsible adult. How many of you have a horn? How many of you use it? Too much. Right? Every car should have two horns. One horn should be, honk, you're about to kill me. But the other horn should be, beep, excuse me. You're on your phone and the lights turn green. I just want to let you know that it's time to go. Right? The world would be a better place if cars had two horns. But you be mindful of that. Right? When you're driving. Now look, don't think about these codes of conduct in businesses as onerous. Every civilized organization or organization that has accountability in it needs structure. Part of that structure are expectations. And organizations create expectations via ethics, codes of conduct, core values, right? All right. Now, the situation in the book is a good one because this business that we're in lends itself to kickbacks and rebates and free stuff, right? Because most people I know that start out in this business, myself included, we don't equate drinks and food and hotel rooms with money. But it is money. How many of you work in restaurants? And work in the restaurant, how many of you have ever given away something free to a friend? Raise your hand. Raise your hand, everybody's done. Yeah. But for those same people, if you worked at a bank as a teller, and those same friends came in to cash a $20 check, how many of you would give them $40 back? Raise your hand. Why not? It's what? It's stealing. What? Giving the drink away isn't stealing? Giving the steak away isn't stealing? Giving the hamburger away isn't stealing? Giving the French fries away isn't stealing? What's the difference? It's all value. If it was your restaurant, would you be okay with that? There you go. Why do you not do it at the bank, but you do it at the restaurant? They what? Yeah, exactly. You're going to get caught. Yeah, that's exactly right. You guys are okay lying, cheating, and stealing unless what? Unless you get caught. That's not ethical, is it? All right, so you got to think these things through. And you got, look, karma is a bitch. If you're going to go do that in your businesses, people are going to steal from you. It's just a matter of time. So you just need to think about it, right? Yes, ma'am? You going to enlighten us?
Where would the line be that you personally would think it would be unethical if I have a guest of manager friend? So like if my friend comes in, I can comp their meal. What is ethical and what is not?
If you have a company policy that gives you some discretion into how to do that and you stay within the guidelines, I don't have any problem with that at all. Everybody in here, you know what I'm talking about. Does this mean yes? This is your raising your hand. I got it. I thought we were.
No.
Okay.
So like my company, they allow like in the guidelines they say they don't say like you have a family thing where it says friends and family.
Yeah.
Where if they can give you your first name and know what like department you work in, and like you tell them you tell the company ahead of time, hey, my friends and family staying here and we have availability, they would give you the friends and family discount, which is 50% off room and like
Yeah.
$5 off food, and it's like recognized, but it's not just like willy-nilly. There's like they know that they do that so they can stop people from just giving away food.
Yeah. Look, I think guidelines are important. If you're following the guidelines or you're asking for permission, I think that's great. And somebody says, sure, go ahead. Yeah, have at it. But if you're doing it surreptitiously to pad your tips, right, that's not fair to the business. Let's walk through this financially. Where are my math people in here? Raise your hand if you're good with math. Nobody? Oh, we got a couple of people in here. Okay, you're good with math. Here's the situation. You give away a $25 fillet to a friend. Okay? How many fillets does that restaurant have to sell before they're made whole from you giving away that steak? How many? Two. No. I want you to think about it and tell me what the answer is. They're always going to be behind, aren't they? But if we, just to get us whole, you're exactly right about that. To get us whole, where are we going? How many do we have to sell? Let's walk through it. If you sell the first one, so we gave one away, we lost how much? 25. We lost $25. Remember that. Now, and say we have a 50% contribution margin. So we got a cost of goods sold of $12.50. Right? That's important. So we sell the first one. I'm sorry, we gave the first one away. We sell the next one. Where does that leave us? And I didn't make $12.50 on that, did I? It cost me $12.50 to sell the 25. So I only got $12.50, which now goes back to pay for the $12.50 that the first take cost me. But have I made my profit back? I haven't. I got to sell another one. Right? Before I get it. I'm whole. Or it's nearly impossible to ever catch up. It's almost like revenue management, right? If I don't sell that seat tonight, I'll never sell it again on that flight going over, that hotel. It's not quite that severe, but it's close. So the impact that kind of unethical behavior in your restaurant or your hotel is significant. That's why restaurants and hotels are working diligently about fraud detection and theft. It's one of the greatest expenses this industry faces. You've got to be aware of it. You have to understand the impact that it has. Got it? And look, it doesn't matter if it's steaks, it's beer, it's cocktails, it's T-shirts. It does not matter. It takes at least 3 of whatever is given away, 3 subsequent sales to get the business back to whole. And actually it takes 4 to put them in the situation of having actually made an additional amount of money that they should have made on the first one. But then, if you count it that way, they lost the 4th one. Right? It's a problem, and you need to realize it. All right. Now, your parents come into town for graduation. They're staying at a hotel. They say to you, hey, we're going to celebrate. Let's come up with a great place to have dinner for 10 of your friends on us. Can you do a little research and find out? Yeah, and you call the concierge where they're staying. And the concierge says, hey, there's a brand new restaurant in town. It's fabulous. You're going to love it. It's a perfect spot. I've set you up for 8 p.m. on this night. You go, great. And you go over there and it's a disaster. And then you find out that the concierge had never eaten there, never stepped foot in the place, and they got $50 for booking you there. Are you going to be okay with that? But that happens all the time. Is that ethical? No. All right. Just because something makes money, does it make it the right thing to do? No. Remember that. I have the worst time with salespeople in this industry than any other salespeople. It's crazy. I remember when I first started working here, a sales guy was in one of my talks, not in class, but a professional talk, and he came up and he said, hey, he goes, I've got customers, they want to do business in strip clubs. I said, yeah, so? He said, well, I've been doing that for 10 years. I said, okay. He said, well, the hotel's telling me I can't do that anymore. I said, yeah. He goes, why not? I said, hold on a minute. I said, you're the director of sales at a luxury hotel in the city of Houston? He goes, yeah. I said, how long have you been in this position? He goes, 15 years. I said, that's a long time. I said, do you work with women? He goes, sure. I said, are they in your department? He goes, yeah. I said, well, these customers you're taking into the strip clubs, could they be the customers of the women in your department? He goes, sure, I guess. I said, are you going to take the women into the strip club? He goes, oh, that would be cool. I said, that's right. And I said, what? And then I went, hold on a second. Let's back up because we're not getting anywhere with this conversation. I said, do you have a daughter? He said, I do. I said, how would you feel if your daughter had to go into a strip club where women are demeaned and she had to experience that in order to do her job? And he said, I wouldn't like that at all. I said, well, neither do the women that you work with. I said, you need to think about that. And everybody in this room needs to think about that too. Right? Speaking of which, Spencer, did we get that video posted? I sent it to you late last night, or maybe I sent it to you early this morning. I can't remember. Did you guys see it about Gillette? How many of you have seen that video about masculinity and all that? Well, if you haven't seen it, I encourage you to see it. It's a very cool announcement. So I hope you'll take a look at it. All right, back to ethics. So in the book, it gives you this situation. It's a champagne because it's New Year's Eve. You order 20 grand worth of champagne. And then a delivery gets made to your home of a case of Dom Perignon. 12 bottles, wholesale value about $60 each, so about $720. Right? What do you do with the champagne? Now, before you answer, look at the 7 questions. Who has them in front of them? Who can pull them out? Okay. Take a look at them. What's the first one? Because here's the thing. This is what I want you to walk away from this discussion with. I want you to stop answering right away. And I want you to think. These tests are tools for you to use to make better choices. Look, do I expect you to make the ethical decision every single time in your life? No. Do I always do that? No. But you, as an adult, do we have to be willing to accept the consequences of our choices? All right, so that's your trade-off, right? But these questions will help you make better choices and help you keep your job and leave a good legacy for the people behind you. All right? I apologize. I interrupted you. Tell me your name again. Anthony, lay it on us. Number 1. Is it legal? Is it legal to get that champagne? It may be legal for you to get it, but is it legal for the vendor to give it to you? Probably not. It's probably against their guidelines, and it's probably against the law because they're doing it to influence, arguably, purchasing decisions in the future. If you don't think that, you're being really naive. Do you see that? All right, so just hold on to that. But it's not enough to ask yourself, is this legal? Do you see that? I want you to constantly think about all of the people it could impact. Keep going. Who? Well, if you drink it all at one time, it would. But does it hurt anybody if you get that case of champagne? What do you think? Man in the back with the blue jean jacket. That would be you. Hey! Would it hurt anybody if you get that case of champagne and keep it for yourself? Think. Well, I don't know. You tell me. Think. Hold on. Let's get somebody I hadn't spoken for. How about, yes, ma'am, in the Pink Floyd shirt. How do you even know about Pink Floyd? Keep going. That's all right. Phil Collins kind of person. Okay. Yes, you like Pink Floyd? Yes, it would hurt somebody? Who? It could hurt the vendor that we gave it to, right? If they were doing something illegal and they got busted, that's possible. Who else could it hurt? The company. How? How? You're exactly right. How? Yeah, so what do you think the vendor is thinking by sending you that case of champagne?
They think they will still have, you'll be preferred.
That there'll be a preferred vendor in the future, right? We're going to do business with you in the future, and oh, by the way. So now you got the case of champagne. Now it's next year, and that vendor comes back with a higher price than you can get from another vendor, but the other vendor doesn't give you the spiff. Which one are you going to do for the company?
Cheaper.
Are you going to do the cheaper one? I hope you're right, but I don't think so. I think most people succumb to human nature, and they're going to think, ooh, case of Dom, that was great. We had a great New Year's. Right? I hope that's not what you do, but I'll promise you that's what the vendor's thinking you will do. Right? But does that hurt the business? Sure it does. When you go to work for a company, do you have an obligation to put that company first? You absolutely do. You have an absolute responsibility to put the company's interests ahead of your own personal interest. That's part of the employer-employee relationship. So when you make decisions as an employee, you have to make the decision in the best interest of the business. That's being an adult. That's being a responsible person. That's holding people, having accountability to yourself, right? When you have a family, do the decisions you make have to be in your best interest or in the best interest of the family? The best interest of the family. That's being an adult. When you have a child, all of your decisions need to be in the best interest of the child. If you have a dog, same thing. If you don't want to make choices of the benefit of that dog, then don't have a dog. If you have a goldfish, if you have a plant, everything but cats. Cats can take care of themselves. They're smart. I'm not a cat person, but I got to acknowledge they're smart. All right. Do you guys get that? When you make choices in your official position in an employee, you have to make the best decision on behalf of the company. If you put your self-interest first, that's unethical, and you're not long for the job. Because today, they will know. It's too easy to sift data and to find anomalies. There's a whole division in Deloitte. That's all they do for businesses. Find people that are doing things outside the compliance guidelines. Next question. Is it fair? Is it fair for you to get that champagne for doing your job? Aren't you already getting paid to do that job? Right. So it's not fair. Next. Here's that thing. If you think it's fair and you think it doesn't hurt anybody, are you being honest with yourself? No, because of the discussions we've just had. Next. There you go. If it was your business and your employees were making decisions based on their best interest instead of the company's best interest, would you mind that? Of course you would. Next. This is the one, right, Piper? This is the one you hang on to. This is the one. Would you be okay keeping that case of champagne if you knew that that afternoon an email was going to go around to everybody at that hotel that says, Stephen Barth, after placing $20,000 order of champagne, received a case of Dom Perignon from the vendor? Would you be okay with that? Your GM's going to see that. The corporate office is going to see that. Would you be okay with that? No. And if you wouldn't be, then you don't do it. Right? Or you'd be ready to face the consequences. Some people substitute grandmother for post. If my grandmother knew I was getting ready to do this, would I do it? That kind of puts a damper on everybody's life. But anyway, that's one thing people use to help you make better choices. But if you just ask yourself, if this shows up on the front page of the New York Times or the Dallas Morning News or the Houston Chronicle, am I going to be okay with that? That'll help you make much better choices. So now, let's go back to the question, is it legal? Given the discussion we've already had this morning, is it legal? How do we know? All right. Kickbacks, rebates, probably not legal, but we immediately, when we asked ourselves that question, where did our mind go? We went to the law, right? We went to the law as it applies to the alcohol beverage industry. But where else do you have to go to decide if something is legal? The company's guidelines, policies, procedures, core values. Because as far as you're concerned, those are laws. And you've got to comply with those just as sincerely as you comply with other laws. Because again, if you don't, and there's great guidance there, if you don't do it, what's going to happen? You're going to be at it. Now, many companies realize that people give Christmas gifts. Right? So, and what they'll say in their policy is, if it happens around normal gift giving time, and if it's and they'll put a dollar value on it. I've seen $50, I've seen $100, I've seen $200. But gifts in excess of that need to be returned, or they need to be turned in for the benefit of everybody. I think there was one other question up there that was, what if everybody did it? Oh, it was the last one? What if everybody did it? Yeah, so if you have your hotel and everybody's playing this game, so does that mean every time you order TVs for the maintenance person, a TV is going to get installed in their house? Would you be okay with that? Every time housekeepers ordered sheets, they get a new set of cannons? Right? Are you going to be okay with that? No. It typically gets abused in food and beverage. Be mindful of that. And do you see why? It impacts everybody. And you wouldn't like if it happened to you. So be on the lookout for that. All right. So, that's a decision-making process that can help you. Did you have your hand up a minute ago? Oh, I did. And yes, ma'am.
Oh, I have a question. Is it a thing that happen in real life? Because, how would the vendor know the address of the person who ordered?
Sure. Hey, thanks for doing business with you. Do me a favor. Give me your card. Put your home address on the back. We'd like to send you a little something. It's easier than getting a phone number in a bar. That was funny. You guys need to laugh. Yes.
I wanted to ask if quantity mattered, because I can see how a case, 6 bottles, would be big, but versus maybe like gift 1 bottle. How would that change?
It's going to change depending upon the policy that you have. That's what I want you guys to walk away with. When you go to work, even before you go to work for them, you should ask them for their ethical guidelines, their policies and procedures around everything. And you should study those, and you should know where to find them, so when you are faced with a choice or a decision, you go to those first. Because it may enable you to keep it if the value is under 50 or under whatever it is. But look, there's all kinds of ways to help make a better choice. Ask the GM. If the GM says, okay, is everything kosher? No. You send the GM an email, say, hey, I just want to confirm that you're okay with this. And if the GM's not really okay with it, because now you put it in writing, they're going to write back and go, you know what, after thinking about this, I think we should return it to the vendor, right? But don't rely on a verbal okay in a situation that could jeopardize your job. If you have it in writing, you have a prayer. If it's verbal, you only have air. Okay?
I actually had experience with this back at my hotel, where there was this tequila vendor, and he just came out with this new tequila, and we said that we put 1 bottle, 1 or 2 bottles, like 3 or 4 bottles at the bar, test it out, promote it for 1 night just to see how people liked it and see how it went. And then after that night was over, he gave the front desk manager like a pair of like custom cufflinks with the tequila's tequila was all right. It was sold, but it was like I like the person.
So the cufflinks were not sufficient to get your manager over the top.
Yeah, he was like, I can't accept gifts. Do you want this?
Ah, okay.
I was like, I'll pick. I mean,
Yeah.
sure. And then he told me like the whole story is like, I like the guy as a person, and then it was just like the way he did it, and he said,
Yeah, and that's a nice thing to do, right, game two, because you're not in decision-making capacity, right? So it couldn't impact the choice in the future. Yeah, very good. All right, so look. You get the tools, you have them there for you, you know that you have to, when you go to work someplace, you have to become familiar with those guidelines. Here's the other thing. Many of you will be asked to craft those guidelines for the businesses that you work with. Be mindful of that and just understand what you're trying to accomplish. Yeah? And make sure you educate people about the guidelines. If you want to hold people accountable, is it important to make sure that your expectations are clear? Absolutely, right? That's one of the most important things that leaders do, is they make their expectations clear.
But you also have to follow them.
You got to hold people accountable to them. Yeah.
No, I mean yourself.
Oh, you follow them yourself. I agree with that. Yeah, you got to set an example for sure. Yeah. All right. Where were we? Chapter 1. Now, for Tuesday's class, we're going to devote some time on the judicial system in the U.S. So there's a chart in the book. I want you to read. I want you to study that. I want you to understand the concept of due process. All right? Understand the concept of due process. Now, we're not finished with today. I'm dividing up what we're doing with the chapter. Now, for the next few minutes, I want to talk about a process that's in the chapter. It's called Stem the Tide of Litigation. I'm not going to go through what's in the book. I'm assuming you're going to read that. But the premise, STEM stands for select the right people for the right job, train them to do the job correctly, right? Educate yourself. Continue to educate yourself on what's important. And the M is manage people positively. And I've learned over time that if you'll do those 4 things, you will eliminate most legal problems that can arise in your business. If you vet your people carefully before you hire them, and we're going to spend a whole chapter on this, right? But then you train them, right? And you train them not just in doing the job, but also about the infrastructure of the business, the law, the compliance items, your core values, your expectations. And then you continue to get educated about things that are going on. And then you manage people positively, you will wipe out most legal issues. But I've been involved in cases where GMs have been in the business for 20 years and they don't keep up with what's happening. For instance, should a GM today know about human trafficking? Should they know the resources available to stop human trafficking? Should they train their employees to assist in doing that? If you have a hotel, do you wait for something to go wrong, or do you do safety inspections and checklists to anticipate and find out if things are wrong? Second one, you're constantly inspecting and anticipating, constantly doing that. If the guest finds out, if the guest has to tell you about it, it's too late. And it's the same thing with customer care. If a guest has to tell you that a light bulb is burned out in the hotel room, that's too late. Right? Okay, so it's the same thing with safety and security and legal issues. If the police have to tell you that your bartender overserved somebody, that's too late. If you get a letter in the mail from a lawyer that says you overserved somebody and they killed somebody, that's too late. Right? So the concept of STEM is prevention. It's all about being proactive and preventative in your management style. And in order to do that, you've got to keep up with what's going on. You have to read industry periodicals. And today it's easier for you. You don't have to go to a library anymore. Subscribe to Online, Hotel News Now, restaurants, all of them have stuff. HospitalityLawyer.com. We post things every single day about new things that are happening that we need to be mindful of. Do hotels and restaurants need to be careful with people's data today? Right. If you're not doing that, are you behind? Right? Okay. So if you see a crack in the sidewalk, do you wait till somebody falls before you do something about it? No, you warn them immediately, you put a sign out, you rope it off, you do something until you can get it fixed, right? You be proactive. That's the concept around STEM. Everybody good? All right. I know many of you have classes in other places. We're going to do our best to get out of here about 1:15 every day, right? But I'm here for a few more minutes. If anybody has any questions or has anything else to talk about, Spencer's up in his booth, so you're welcome to do it. Everybody understands where we're headed and what we're doing? Awesome. You guys go, conquer. Don't drink and drive. Don't text and drive. Be sure you find your groups. Hey guys, now look, make sure you bring your name tag on Tuesday because you're not going to know everybody's name. You're going to know your group's name, but you're not who they are. Do not wait for me to find your groups when you come in on Tuesday morning. Get with your groups. Everybody understand it? Go, go, go. You can message them. Thank you for that. Good idea.